must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to endear to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya that has escalated in the Sahel region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question And our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, the television in Pan-African station, the only television south of the Sahara in sub-Saharan Africa that discusses Africa. What ails Africa? What kills Africa? What disturbs Africa? We have plenty for the nation, the continent of Africa. But we seem not to like our own continent. We seem to create more and more difficulties for the continent of Africa. We seem to be putting forward impossible solutions to meet impossible conditions and make it difficult for the continent of Africa to progress. 66 years after independence, the first nation called Ghana, we still look at a country, continent without its own vaccine. A country that cannot manufacture its own needles. A country continent that cannot manufacture its own toothpicks. We look for outside solutions that never come to give credence to only outsiders, but not ourselves. What killed us? Who bewitched Africa? What went wrong? The problem with Africa, so many writers across the continent, from Chinawa Achebe to World Sonyika, Gungi wa Thiongo, those who wrote the books across the continent of Africa, from Patrice Lumumba, from Nyerere, the same message: Africa must unite. But how can Africa unite when some countries are bleeding? This evening, Matsanga Africa Perspective wants to look at what ails Africa, the problem of the conflict of the Sahel region. The Sahel region that covers the northern parts of all the countries of West Africa, across the Sahara region, back to the Red Sea, back to the Mediterranean Sea. This is what I want to look at tonight on Matsanga Africa Perspective. Thank you very much, all of you. Those joining us today and those who will join us later. Those watching us in Tripoli, those watching us in Abuja, Onitsha, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Lagos, Accra, Rwanda, Maputo, Dar es Salaam, Asmara, Port Sudan, Alexandria, Johannesburg, Harare, in Rwanda, Angola, those watching us in Kigali, Kagame. Kagame seemed to be the man of the day. Rwandan troops have no mercy. When they go in, they do the job thoroughly. They have restored peace in Mozambique. Today, Mozambicans are beginning to smile. Thank you very much, President Kagame, for the swift decisions that you took to deploy your troops to stop the onslaughting Al-Shabaab terrorists that were taking over northern Mozambique. But what are the reasons then? We shall look at it as we come, step by step. Today, the Sahel conflict, we shall use Nigeria as a case study. Is Nigeria falling apart? Does Nigeria need reassembly? Has Nigeria learned any lessons? Was it too big a country to be governed by one man? If the European Union is breaking itself down, what on earth is Africa working out? Was it a forceful marriage? We see conflicts in the Sahel region. Who funds this conflict? My guests today who are joining us will be talking about the conflict. Is Nigeria collapsing? Thank you very much. I want to welcome Mr. Manzi MJ Ononcha from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Dubai. Mr. Ononcha will be speaking about the Sahel region and about the country called Nigeria. He will talk about Biafra. Welcome to the show, Mr. Manzi M. Ononcha. Are you there? Hello, Mr. Ononcha, are you there? Are you there? Mr. Manzi Mike Ononcha, are you there? Technical problems. Can you come online? Technical problems. Thank you very much. However, we shall proceed. Oh, also joining us from United States of America is none other than Dr. Jeff Kalui. Dr. Jeff Kalui was a presidential candidate in the Kenyan elections of 2017. Dr. Jeff Kalui is himself a conflict resolution expert dealing with Africa, with the entire world. He's a good mediator. He does arbitration. He's also a healthcare doctor. So most of you who have got these problems, all of us, as you know, Africa, I was saying in my opening remarks, the entire continent of Africa, Dr. Jeff Kalui, there is no single country that can give us a vaccine. Are we bewitched? We have so many doctors, including you. You are one of the scientists. But you have gone to the United States instead. I'm one, unlike me, who studied political science. which took me to another country called Britain. At least I'm contributing to Africa by doing exactly what political science is supposed to do. So I'm happy about that. Welcome to the show. Test the microphones, Dr. Jeff Karui.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Matsanga. It's always a pleasure to work and discuss issues of continental importance. So if you can hear me, you can confirm, but I'm looking forward to discuss issues of importance as well.
Thank you very much. The topic is very clear. The Sahel region. The Sahel region is in conflict. Right from Mali, Nigeria, Gambia, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo. We have a Cameroon, Chad, Libya. We are in trouble. But the case study we are using tonight is Nigeria. Nigeria, as a big nation, has let us down in West Africa. It was supposed to, with a population of 250 million people, my brothers and sisters across the continent of Africa, Nigeria will be a trading partner and we will be making money. But instead, we make a lot of tears. There are tears coming from Nigeria every morning, every day, you switch on TV, you hear 200 people have been killed in Onitsha, in Enugu, Port Harcourt, southeastern Nigeria. The Biafrans butchered, killed, kidnapped, taken away, slaughtered, tortured, defiled. These are the words coming out of Nigeria today. In the north, we have Maiduguri area, in the areas where terrorists of ISIS, Boko Haram, have taken the country. They slaughter the way they want. They cut people's hands, limbs. They kidnap all the girls. Going by the standards that we have today, in a few years to come, Nigeria might not have girls amongst the population because all the girls would have gone with the rebels or would have gone with ISIS as their slaves. Looking at all this, what do we make of the continent of Nigeria, the continent of Africa?
Well, thank you so much. First, as you have heard, my name is Dr. Jeff Kaluyu, and I'm a Kenyan by birth, and I would say that I'm very good, knowledgeable perspective of Africa. And 2017, as you heard, I ran for President of the Republic of Kenya. 2022, we are on as well. That aside, the question was very specific in terms of Africa, because we are talking of conflict in Sahel. And specifically, we wanted to hone in Nigeria. We have to understand, first of all, some of the differences. And the importance of why the doctor is discussing this is because those variables or perspectives also can be applied, and we can look at those examples and see where we are ourselves at home and how we can avoid those. Because if we do not learn history, we are bound to repeat it. Nigeria is very specific, and the Sahel area that covers some parts of Mali and northwest Nigeria and some places of northeast. So we have to see what Nigeria is for what it is. Unlike Kenya, Nigeria is almost 50-50 with Christians and Muslims, and there are about 250 different tribes with almost 600 different languages. And all these variables play into part. But this is something that started developing like 12 years ago in terms of Boko Haram. And Boko Haram started with the small scale kidnappings and along with terroristic approach by Delta, the Delta area, small gangs. And they have now mushrooms because they have been led to continue mushroom and continue become bigger and bigger without control. Now today, and even I think on recently, I think a day or two, we are talking of like even they took 2 students from Kaduma area from Greenfield University and they murdered them because that's what they are trying to hit where it hurts the most, in schools, in universities, kidnapping girls and keeping them for, to torture parents, because that's what terrorists do. They hit the heart of a nation and communities. So Nigeria, it is in a very big predicament. 250 million people in approximation, and all those people, they occupy in a space that is approximately Texas in the United States. So we are talking of a very small space occupied by many people, and don't forget, it's one of the largest economies in Africa, and where Nigeria goes, and we would like to be there as Kenyans, pretty much Africa goes, including their military. So we are talking of small, one of the significance is that we are talking of small gangs that are rising. And for example, the Greenfield University case in Kaduma, they wanted 800 million naira, which is about $2 million US, before they do things. So we are talking of Boko Haram that have become like blackmail, organizations, and they have been led to continue to mushroom. And that is very important, especially in Kenya, where we are supposed to look at situations where things are starting to mushroom, or anybody drumming drums of war. They don't understand war until they are well traveled. Because if you travel in these countries in Africa, when you let small scale violence related or potential small cells, they grow to be big and it is hard to control them. Where Nigeria is today in Northeast, in Boko Haram and other places, it's almost uncontrollable. They are doing a lot of mass murdering. I mean, they kidnap people and to torture the parents. We don't want to get there in as Kenyans or other parts of Africa. And whoever is listening across Africa, from South Africa to North Africa, I can almost say with confidence, I have a student that have graduated in almost every country in Africa. So I'm hoping when they hear me, they can hear from their professor, their teacher, that we need to lead in Africa, because without peace, we can't prosper in terms of business, we can grow. Remember Nigeria, the most population in Nigeria is under 15 years, 15 years old. So we are talking of destroying a country from within, apart from the conflict itself. If we give no future to these 15-year-olds who are coming to be adults, and when they come to the world, they can't go back. They must continue and take over the government. So if we destroy their future, if we don't like what is happening, then we don't like the future, what is happening. So Nigeria is a case study that we need to learn as Kenyans, and where things can go, what it can become, and what these small terrorists or talking violent rhetoric. Even now we are in political season, trying to talk violent rhetoric. It can grow these under the surface groups, and we might not be able to conflict to do them. And conflict resolution experts like Dr. Matsanga, who has done it hands-on in Africa, in many countries, he knows there is now need for experts to go to Nigeria to start bringing factions together, and also making sure the rule of the law is followed. But at the moment, there is a need for experts and groups to come together.
Let me come in.
Yes.
Dr. Karui, let me come in. How do you bring a government that is itself broken down, where the leader has no authority over certain states, where the leader has encouraged kidnap, slaughter, redemption, taking people, picking people? How do you bring a government where a man who was the chief kidnapper, General Buhari, is well known for having kidnapped Umar Diko, tried to put Umar Diko in a coffin? I was in London by then. when these pictures came on TV, I believed there. I didn't know it was this Muhammad Buhari. So there is nothing new about Muhammad Buhari that you can see that a leader can bring a country and sit down. Sit with who? Other parts of Nigeria are saying we need a referendum, like the Biafrans. Our friend from Biafra is here. He's online here, right from Dubai, and he's going to tell us what it is, the pain. The shoe pains them. They know where the wearer knows where the shoe pains. And I believe Mike M.J. Onocha will tell us more. You have made your points very clear. If we leave it to grow, it could create a very big problem for Africa. It has already grown. The dismemberment of Libya, Mali, Chad, you saw rebels crossing over from Libya to kill the president. Surely, in Africa, they have killed the president and they celebrated. They went back and said, we killed him. We have seen in Cameroon, Paul Biya sentences opposition leaders at 5 a.m. in the morning. Where the crowds are not there, they were sentenced to life because they wanted the state of Amazonia. My brother, Mike M.J. Onocha from Dubai, you are a man who speaks, who knows where the shoe pains you. Tell us more. We are scholars who look at the sun. Now we come to you for the facts on the ground. Take it away, brother, as we listen.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm coming out loud now. Can you hear me?
Very clear, we hear. I hope you are hearing in Washington, sir.
Yes,
Loud,
very clear.
Loud and clear. All right. Good evening, doctor, and good evening, doctor. I think we have two doctors there. So
yes.
all protocols observed. All right.
My name is, good evening, elder doctor, and good evening, younger doctor.
Absolutely. All right.
I'm the eldest. Yes.
Okay. My name's Mazi M.I. Onoha. That is my name. Of course, I am a Biafran by birth, and I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege you've given to me this evening to come to your show. All right, without wasting time, let me go straight to it. First of all, we are talking about the Sahel region. All right, now it is important for us to understand which countries are in the Sahel area, because our listeners this evening, they might be hearing Sahel. It sounds like Greek word. They don't understand what is Sahel. But let me help them this evening. When we talk about Sahel, we're talking about Senegal, we talk about Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Sudan, and Eritrea. Now, these are the countries that fall under this Sahel region. Now, we're talking about conflicts. We need to understand first, where did it start? Because if you want to treat a sickness, you need to understand where that sickness started in order for you to be able to treat that sickness. The doctors call it diagnosis. You need to diagnose the patient, find out what is the problem, then you can apply medication. Now, let's go to the epicenter of this whole conflict, the epicenter. I've always said it. I don't think an African country have the capacity to control a population of 250 million. I don't think we have all it takes. Now, I love the fact that we are using Nigeria as a case study, because Nigeria is the so-called big brother of Africa. Nigeria is the so-called giant of Africa with a population of 250 million. But now when you look at the kind of government they are running, that is not the government you use. Let's take America, for instance. A country like America. America is huge. America is massive. Only Alaska, the population of Alaska, you know how many Alaska is. But now, because America understands the dynamics, they understand that in order for them to control the population, they need to, practice an autonomous kind of government whereby the states are independent. That is why America is working. But because Nigeria is not a country, Nigeria is a British contraption, Nigeria is a business venture. That is why they don't care what system works. They just pack all the people in that, I call it a container. They die, they live, they don't care. But I will come back to that. But let's go to the epicenter and why we have this conflict in the Sahel. Now, in northeast Nigeria, it may interest you to know that the armed conflict between non-state armed groups and security forces continues to affect neighboring countries, which means what is happening in Nigeria is what is spilling over to other African countries in the Sahel region. Now, if you are a terrorist anywhere in Africa now, your dream will be to go to Nigeria because that is where it's happening. Remember, in order for terrorists to succeed, they have to indulge in kidnapping. And the kidnapping market in Nigeria is very lucrative. So Nigeria is uncontrollable. Nigeria is more like what you call a banana republic. So this conflict that is happening in the northeast is what is spilling from Nigeria. You go to Niger, Cameroon, Chad, and other parts of Sahel region. Of course, you know about Boko Haram. Boko Haram is an old story that we know about. Boko Haram has now unified themselves. As a matter of fact, you have the ones you call ISWAP. Nigeria is a country that have about 6, if I'm not mistaken, terrorist group in one country. What do you expect? A country that hosts about 6 terrorist groups. Now, if somebody is telling me that there is redemption for Nigeria, I will tell you that you are dreaming. It is not possible because these terrorists have found a safe haven in Nigeria. And you know one thing about terrorists, when they find a safe haven, the resources are there, the oil is there. Their dream would be one day to conquer the Niger Delta area and take over the oil field and sponsor their what? Their terrorist activities. So Nigeria is a safe haven for the terrorists. Now I'm going to shock you. Now look at this. Look at this. In Nigeria alone, you have the one you call Jamaat Nusra Islam, while Muslimin, it is called JNIM. That is one of the terrorist organizations. And then again, you have the Islamic State of West Africa, ISWAP. In Nigeria, only one country hosting so much terrorist groups. Now you have Islamic State Greater Sahara, ISGS. Then you have Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. You have Al-Murabiton, Ansar Dine, and then you have Boko Haram. Now, let's go to Biafra. How is this affecting the people of Biafra? And not just only Biafra, because in Nigeria, you have people who have been forced into this unlawful marriage. When these people are doing whatever they are doing, they target Biafra. Because remember, the oil you talk about is in Biafra. Now, their target is how to do what? Capture Biafra. And how will they do that? They start by killing the people of Biafra. They start by victimizing the people of Biafra. As you know now, it is a problem for people to go to the farm in Biafra because of the... As a matter of fact, I forgot the most deadliest terrorists of them all. And that is the ones that we call the Fulanese herdsmen. The herdsmen, the one they say they are herdsmen, but they are recognized as the second most deadliest terrorist group in the whole world. But Nigerian government have not yet proscribed those people. So these are the people that are terrorizing the southeast, killing people, forbidding the women from going to the farm to do what they have to do, until Mazi Nnamdi Kanu came and introduced what you call the Eastern Security Network. That is why people are still alive today in the southeast. If not for the Eastern Security Network, I promise you, you would have experienced another genocide happening right before our own very eyes. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is this. the head has already failed, because Buhari cannot handle the situation. He is a terrorist himself. Remember, this is the same man who said some time ago that an attack on Boko Haram is an attack against the North. This is a president protecting a terrorist organization. So how on earth do you expect the same man, how do you expect the same man to do what? Protect the whole Nigeria? He is the man that believes that it is, if you are not a Fulani, you deserve to die. That is what Buhari believes in. And that is why the evidence is clear. When you go to his, his cabinet, it is 100% Northernized. It is 100% Northernized. So we are feeling the pain in the East. And that is why we are calling on the whole world. We are calling on the United Nations to come to our aid, and of course, to do a thorough investigation in Nigeria before things fell apart. Because let me tell you, it is just a matter of time. Because it is only a tree that hears that you're going to kill him, and the tree stands there. But a human being, when he hears that he's going to be killed, that human being has to do something to survive. So if the United Nations do not do anything as soon as possible, this conflict is going to be massive, and it's going to split to all other African countries, not just only the Sahel region, but even to Kenya, to Uganda, to all other African countries. Because now we're talking about a population of 250 million. Where are they going to run to? Let me stop here for now. And as we continue, then of course, I will touch other areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for this analysis. I have never seen a country with, apart from Afghanistan, which had several terrorist groups. I did not know that Nigeria also has over 7 terrorist groups. I knew about Boko Haram and ISIS, and the new ISIS group, and Al-Qaeda Maghreb, the unit, the cell, the sleeper cells in the north of Africa. I knew about the Fulani herdsmen, the one that kill using daggers, the ones who have been killing the Biafrans, the ones supported by the government. The international community has been watching slowly, Nigeria disintegrating. Biafra has been saying, give us a referendum. We want to go. We want to decide. Any leader would have said, okay, you can give them a referendum and stagger their departure, like in Europe, European Union. Britain wanted to separate from European Union, but it was not immediate. It was staggered until just last year, when we finally got out and said Britain is on its own with other 54 member states of Commonwealth. Why has Nigeria refused to give the Biafran a referendum? And yet, the entire state, central government is collapsed. The foreign policy of Nigeria is a dead foreign policy. The foreign policy, the defense policy are all dead. Commanders and officers, police is the most corrupt in the whole world. You saw Nigerians had to go on their Twitter handle and remove a police force that was extorting money from the people. Dr. Kaludi, given these new revelations, a country where people are demanding for their referendum. In Kenya, you are demanding for, people want a referendum to change the bad laws. And I can see people trying to run away from it. And yet today, the same people are shouting. I was very impressed, even annoyed. I wanted to cry tears, but I couldn't cry. When I heard people on Kenyan television calling for reconciliation, Yet this is something that I've been calling for all the time. That let's have a redemption strategy, healing, reconciliation, accountability. My Jesus Christ, I couldn't believe it, that what I've been saying, God has come and held my hand, and I'm seeing it here happen in Kenya. They are saying now we want the deputy president to reconcile. The same message. I don't know whether Karuya will tell Nigerians where the state has collapsed already to reconcile with who? How do you reconcile with Buhari, who has failed? Let me tell you, as I surrender, I give you time to speak. Nigeria does not need a judicial process to sort its political problem. Nigeria needs a political solution. Am I wrong, Mike? Nigeria's problem is political. It's a political solution.
100%.
Not
absolutely.
Not judicial, not rendition. Don't pick people and kill them. You want to solve the Biafran issue. General Babangida, my friend, although I don't like the way he did his things, he seemed to have been one of the few, educated a bit. he behaved so well. They have all said Nigeria needs rearrangement. Obasanjo, whom I don't respect because he likes money so much. You know, when you give Obasanjo an assignment, he will sell you. He has said rearrange Nigeria. All people across the globe of Africa and the international community are saying Nigeria needs a new way forward. The giant of Africa is collapsing. Dr. Jeff Karui, is the referendum the way out to give each independent state its autonomy to go and sort its own affairs? And I loaded with that question to answer me this one. Does Africa need elections?
You are so politically aware, and you are totally a political mind, an African political mind, and a leader in that aspect. So I want to correct it to make sure that I don't seem to say these people, Boko Haram, needs to come together to the table to talk about anything, because they are terrorists. Terrorists, you don't negotiate with terrorists.
No, but let me correct you here.
Yeah.
Where you were in Washington negotiated with the Taliban.
I know so that it happened.
Don't be shocked to hear that we are negotiating with Al-Shabaab in Doha. And I have told my East African friends, President Museveni and President Uhuru Kenyatta, they should be prepared that one of these days we shall be laughing with Al-Shabaab. Because the way the Americans are handling their policy around Africa is that we could end up sharing seats with Al-Shabaab in Mogadishu.
My position is we share trying to negotiate with the terrorists. It is we can talk about reformed people who back out and they give up their terroristic methods. Those are reformed people that can sit on the table. But we cannot sit on the table with people who are already killing people and already taking positions because we are killing people. Unless we demand and we get this, then we will not stop killing people. That should not, because if it is allowed, then it will become a policy, a global policy, that people start killing people and then they must be sat on the table. I think it should be discouraged, but
Dr. Karui, maybe you are fearing to speak because you are in America. but I just want, and Mike will support me here, and the other Daniel Wesonga. I don't fear to say the truth.
Yeah.
Americans sat on table with Taliban in Doha and struck a deal, and they left us crying, left millions of Afghanistans being slaughtered by Taliban. And they are now looking, no wait, they are now looking for places in Africa where to dump these soldiers.
Yes.
You get the point? If this is what America is doing, I am telling you, America has got to do something now, which is very, very strong for us to believe in them anymore. Because we cannot believe in a country that leaves people in Kampu, in all the states of Afghanistan being slaughtered by the Taliban.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
We cannot do that. You are very right in that we cannot allow that people need to be slaughtered. And I think that would have been a mistake. That is a mistake from the American side if you sit down with them. But I think where they came from was they wanted to withdraw, but then they needed to leave responsible people who are supposed to take responsibility. And then the new government, they wanted to negotiate new policy. And those people, I had promised they're not going to do anything that is bad. They're not going to get into the airport until Americans leave. But they have started already doing bad things, torturing people. The Taliban.
Dr. Kalui, are Americans not watching Nigerians being slaughtered?
Yes. So I'm talking of the Taliban side.
Let's come back to Nigeria.
Nigeria. So
the number of Nigerians fleeing Nigeria, seeking asylum in the United States of America is huge. They had to close their embassy in Abuja, the immigration department, because they were receiving on a daily basis over 10,000 applications. So is that not a worry to the Americans in the region that several Nigerians, Biafrans, are living? They are scattered in Nairobi, in Uganda, in Zimbabwe. A huge number is in South Africa, Zimbabwe, in London. So many of them. Doesn't America see this? Let's come there.
Yes, Nigeria, it is not even acceptable what is happening. And I agree with you. Referendum, it is a solution. If there needs, because without peace, the country, and we have seen the countries that where peace has been in limited source, like Somalia, like in Libya and other places, and Central African Republic, it's very difficult to bring a country once it falls apart. So if people want a referendum and answer that question so that they can bring peace, because without peace, no business, Nigeria is going to fall apart. And that big economy, and then also the military, it's the biggest military we know. So the referendum, it is required. My last post in Facebook or social media was in total agreement with you in terms of redemption process or a redemption policy, that we needed a national reconciliation commission, and I called and I demanded for it, that we need it immediately. Even if it means in Kenya to abolish the NCIC and NRC, which is National Reconciliation Commission, to get expanded mandate. And that is something similar that needs to go to Nigeria so that they can be able to get the people on board. If it's a referendum, it should be allowed, because the constitutions can be changed and people should rule themselves the way they want. And that should be open. If it is people who want to be living separate. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Nigeria, and the doctor in Doha may even support this, that Nigeria has been looking into the rotational presidency for a while, that because different people demand it. And if that's what's going to be bringing peace, then it needs to be furthered or to be looked into as a solution. And referendums should never be stopped in any country, because things can be today like this and people don't want it. And the only time two groups that have a conflict to be resolutioned or to be answered should be answered by the people at a ballot box. One group says yes, the other group says no, and then they go for the ballot. So I think Nigeria is ripe for a referendum. If people choose that there's going to be a separation, or there's going to be
that particular item, what causes Boko Haram, because also there is reports that Boko Haram is being funded within the sources of the government, or it is, they know the source of where the Boko Haram is coming from. So there is definitely a discomfort that needs to be addressed right away. And I think referendum, I'm total support of that. What I was talking about, the people coming together or looking for a solution, isn't for the government to sit down with the terrorists. I'm talking of the 200. There are so many tribes that come together. That is, there needs to be some sort of a group that comes to talk about peace, because when conflict in tribes and the people who speak different languages, they come into conflict, it is very hard, no matter which group sit down on the big table. No matter what they do, if you do not resolute, or you come into a conclusion or a nice solution with the tribes, the same times you are working on the table solutions, they will be almost not conceivably possible. So again, referring to Kenya, the referendum, whether there was something wrong with the referendum, let's say BBI, they should have said, this is what is wrong, you go back, do it. But stopping a referendum, it is not even acceptable in a country.
Yeah, in Nigeria, Buhari has totally refused a referendum. He doesn't want to talk about it. Everybody who talks about Nnamdi Kanu was on this show talking about it. People want a referendum. He didn't want, instead he kidnapped him.
So he cannot do that. It's not allowed. Yeah. We cannot accept
international law is very clear. This guy was kidnapped, taken. They needed a referendum. They were talking about a referendum. The only thing that we gave them was the peace. The peace that they wanted is to talk about their country. But look, they have been singing about a referendum. What makes Buhari fear a referendum is very simple. It's because once the referendum takes place, the Biafrans are over 100 million people.
Yes.
They will vote in favor of the referendum, and there will be no Fulani herdsmen walking around in the desert looking for cows where to herd them. You know? So that is where the problem is. Part of the problem of Nigeria, that's why I told you, even if you kidnap too many people, even if you kidnap every Biafran and remove him on planet Earth, there will be another group of Biafrans who will demand that they want to go home. And that is what we have been talking about. Yes. Welcome to the show. I'm coming to you, Mike. Welcome to the show. Have you finished, Prof. Ado?
Yes, I was going to say, only a final point is that the three main tribes, at least there needs to be some sort of agreement in the Hausa, Yoruba, and the other big tribes. So at least
the Igbo. But you cannot put two things. The three are quite different. They go different.
Yes.
The Fulani want to kill the Biafrans. They kill them every day.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So that's why the referendum.
There's no way you put these people together. Nigeria.
Yes, so the referendum needs to go ahead because of the differences of those three tribes. Otherwise, they will kill each other and fight to death. So if the referendum, it is clear for the people so that it can reduce this big conflict, then they need to campaign heavily, and then whoever does not win, then they must accept it, because that's the will of the people. And that's what my point was going to be, that referendum is a solution to the big conflict of the three main tribes.
I think you must lead that referendum push together from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. That's very good point you have made there. And I hope Mr. Unocha will be telling us more about the referendum. How far have you gone politically? Then we later on tell us what message do we give to the international community regarding the leader, the detained leader, Nnamdi Kanu. What do we do? How do we get him to have a fair trial? A trial of people, because he was actually, every international law was broken here. And the Nigerian government is not telling the truth, because they will be actually isolated. They broke every international law and came and just kidnapped people. So thank you very much. Across there, we have now Professor Gerard Onyari seated in his office right now. Welcome back, Professor Gerard Onyari. Professor Gerard Onyari, if you are not moving, then let's look for Daniel Wesonga. Sean Wesonga, good evening, wherever you are. Daniel
Yes,
Sean Wesonga is special assignment editor, investigative journalist. He's the one who does all the investigations of my programs. Daniel, good evening.
yes, a very, very good evening, Dr. Matsanga David at our Political Command Center. Good evening, Dr. Jeff Kaluyu in Washington, and Mr. Onuoha JP, who is joining us, I think from Nigeria, and Professor Jared Onyari. And I've been following the conversation, Dr. Matsanga, and I believe it is high time the government of Nigeria addressed the question of Biafra and allowed the people of Biafra, the Igbo people, to discuss upon their own destiny. And this can only be done through giving them a referendum that President Muhammadu Buhari and his cronies have been dodging over the period that they have been in leadership. I think now it is the time, Dr. Matsanga. I submit.
Thank you very much. You submit. You have a man of few words. You want only one thing. Nobody this way in the South, when they hear about Biafrans suffering, nobody wants to talk about Buhari, and they praise Buhari. None of us here, at least not in my tongue, not in my mouth. Buhari is a killer. He has killed people. He's killing people. He's slaughtering people. And I think God, our tears must be seen, must be dropped. Nigeria has become a country where God comes to cry, but does not drop tears. Time has come for tears to be dropped, such that Nigeria changes, Biafrans get their freedom, the young people. Professor Gerard Onyari, you have been connecting and you disappeared. Thank you very much. We have in the studio from Dubai, Mr. Mike M.G. Onocha of IPOB, say one of the people in Dubai. Thank you very much. And we have Professor Dr. Kalui. We had also Daniel Wesonga. Professor, the Sahel region, you are a conflict resolution expert. The entire Sahel region is under fire, right from Egypt, Eritrea, to the east, to the western coast, Gambia. It is on fire. But the fire begins from Nigeria. What are your comments?
Dr. Matsanga, that is a very good question, and the subject is so key to me. The Saharan region, Dr. Matsanga, when you look at it, there's a lot of insecurity. Terrorism operates around that period. The Boko Haram, that's where they are hiding. They are moving around those countries, Dr. Matsanga, and they have extended to Nigeria, and they have destabilized that country, Dr. Matsanga. And the leadership of Nigeria, which is not focused, which are fighting the side, so especially when the people of Biafra want to have their state, the Igbo people. And it's very unfortunate, Dr. Matsanga, that the Igbo people, when they are supposed to be back in their country to develop their country, they are scattered all over the world, and which is a very unfortunate thing. So as we continue advancing this conversation, Dr. Matsanga, we have once and even and again say that the African Union is dead. They have got a full-fledged department which talks about peace and security, and that's where I appeal to our president, Mugai Kenyatta, as he wants to leave a legacy in Kenya, that he should commence a serious conversation and an engagement, Dr. Matsanga. They should be in these forums where we are trying to say that all is not well in the continent of Africa, Dr. Matsanga. So in the Sahel region, Dr. Matsanga, I don't know what the desk of African Union in Africa Union is doing. I don't know whether the ECOWAS have got a strategy, Dr. Matsanga, on how they want to combat the insecurity in this region, Dr. Matsanga. I don't know what the Maghreb countries are trying to do, Dr. Matsanga. I don't know what even East Africa and even the Comesa region, Dr. Matsanga, what they're trying to do, Dr. Matsanga. And if we don't make noise, Dr. Matsanga, and it's high time, Dr. Matsanga, I have said that we should come up with a Pan-African forum or agenda like the one we have, which actually gives solutions to the problems of insecurity facing the continent of Africa, especially the Saharan region, Dr. Matsanga. In the morning, we were focusing about the threats of peace at the horn of Africa, East Africa, and Central Africa, Dr. Matsanga. Africa will never be safe, Dr. Matsanga, if any of the region is not safe, Dr. Matsanga. And that's where the African leaders with Dr. Matsanga, we keep on talking about sustainable development, Dr. Matsanga. And sustainable development number 16, which talks about peace, justice, and democracy, Dr. Matsanga. Do you see it? Do we just go to United Nations, Dr. Matsanga, and the solutions are passed, and then we become small boys, Dr. Matsanga? So the United Nations, be it as it may, Dr. Matsanga, there is much which needs to be done in the continent of Africa. We are not going to see, Dr. Matsanga. The only thing that we are going to pass the next generation, Dr. Matsanga, if we are afraid to take care of the environment and the climate change is causing havoc, Dr. Matsanga, and people don't even have food, don't have water. The effects of climate change, Dr. Matsanga, let us have the continent which is safe and secure, Dr. Matsanga, where people are able, Dr. Matsanga, to fend and move. So the leadership of the African continent, Dr. Matsanga, it is not a request. We demand that the people of Africa need peace and security so that they can move on with their lives to develop the continent. I submit.
Thank you very much, Professor. You have talked and talked over this subject for a long time. And I'm very happy that you have summarized it in the terms. And we have talked about this. The Dubai Mike Onocha has told us the plight of the people of Biafra. They continue to be subjected under the terror of Buhari's regime. They continue to yearn for freedom, which they might never get, but they will struggle on. They continue to find out why the world is silent. Why America? The world is silent because the oil is pumped in ships and it is going. The world is silent because Nigeria is a dumping place. The world is silent because the corrupt leadership of Nigeria is banking billions and billions of dollars into accounts in Europe and America. And they use this money to fight wars like in Afghanistan, Iraq. When the money is on account, it generates interest. Remember, there was a list of Nigerians who were banking outside billions of dollars, while hospitals are not available in Nigeria, schools are very poor, roads are in potholes deeper than a crater on Mount Kilimanjaro. These are some of the problems that create conflict in the Sahel region. Marginalization of the people in Nigeria, or Biafra, giving them no voice, no room, but only the room to seek for alternative constitutional means. Mike, it is your turn now to bring us to perspective. What did you want the world to do? What do you want us to tell the world? We have sung the song. We have delivered our messages. What can we do that the world must hear. You have been told the AU is dead. It's as dead as possible. I can see President Uhuru Kenyatta has just appointed, actually nominated the Minister of Defense, Monica Juma, to become the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. That's breaking news just coming in right now from State House in Nairobi. Good luck. Hey, good luck. And I thank the people of Commonwealth that is exactly what time has come for people. The Commonwealth Conference will be taking place in London sometime in October. And there will be quite a lot of lobby that will take place. And this is the time when people need friends. There are people there who have not been friendly. So we need all the friends in the Commonwealth. So there you are, Mr. Onyocha. How are you? Tell us more.
Right.
What do you want us to say? What do you want? The plight of the people. At least you are in Dubai. You have a briefing space to talk. The people in Onitsha, the people in Enugu, the people in the other parts of Biafra have no say. Take it away, my brother.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. Now, first of all, I do agree with you. You say that the United Nations is dead. I couldn't agree more.
And African Union.
Yes, African Union. Sorry about that. Now, I want to go to United Nations, Article 1, which speaks about self-determination, which is the umbrella that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB is operating. Now, the principle of self-determination is properly embodied in Article 1 of the Charter of the United Nations. All people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine the political status and freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development. It is in Article 1 of the United Nations. So what we are doing is not criminal, and there is no reason why we should be labeled terrorists because we are pursuing our self-determination. Now, when you talk about referendum is a mechanism that is built, it is inbuilt in every democracy, every true democracy. Why is referendum inbuilt? It is inbuilt in a situation like this, like the case of Nigeria, when there is a problem whereby you don't know what the masses are saying, you put it to a test. You go to the poll, not just only for self-determination. You go for referendum when you want to change the constitution. You go for referendum when you want to change a statute in the legislature or even in the constitution. So when it comes to the issue of self-determination, the only test to determine whether what we are saying as IPOB is nonsense is to go through a referendum. Let's put it to the test. If the majority of the people say, no, we don't want Biafra, we want to remain in Nigeria, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have said it here, even in your show, everywhere, that he will pack his bags and go home. If the people of Biafra say, we don't want Biafra, we want to remain in Nigeria, we are not going to fight. We are not going to struggle. We will pack our bags and go home. Why are you afraid of calling on a referendum? Now, they say they don't negotiate, but they've appointed a man, Sheikh Gumi. I don't know if you've heard about this man. His name is Sheikh Gumi. He goes to the bush and negotiates with Boko Haram. He goes to the bush and negotiates with terrorists. But when you talk about IPOB, they don't want to negotiate with IPOB. They only want to do what? Kill them. Because remember, Buhari fought the civil war. The hatred he has for Biafran people, the hatred he has for our fathers is still there, is still alive. And that is why Buhari doesn't want to hear about Biafra. Now, if he is a good president, obviously I don't know if the man there is Buhari, but whoever he is, should have called for a referendum to determine what is the problem and how do we, deal with that. So what we are asking as Biafrans is very simple. Put it to the test. I don't know why Britain will give referendum to Scotland. Britain is willing to give referendum to Ireland, to all the people around them. But when it comes to the issue of Biafra, Britain turned a deaf ears. I don't know, are they telling us that the referendum is not good for a black man? Are they telling us that an African does not have right to self-determination? Is referendum only good for the British, Scotland, and all the rest of the world, the Europeans, and all other parts of the world? But when it comes to Africa, they don't think we are human enough to go through a referendum. So all we are asking as Biafran is very simple. This is our life. This is our destiny. And the Article number 1 of the United Nations has given us the authority to demand for a referendum, to demand for self-determination. And that is what we are asking. We're not asking for too much. And ever since we started this agitation, it has been peaceful. Why is it peaceful? Let me tell you, most of the people that are following Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, we are all educated people. We are all university graduates. I am a forensic investigator by profession. I practice in forensics. I am studying law at the moment. I'm in my final year as a law student. So we are not, they call us, what did they call us? They call us one name, that we are useless people, we are jobless, we don't know what we are doing. That's why we are doing what we are doing. But that is not correct. So what we are asking the world is to listen to Biafran people, because we are dying every day. Biafra is the only place on this planet Earth that a governor of a state goes and drop a bomb in his own state and kill people, because nobody hears it, nobody speaks for us. As long as the oil in Biafra land continue to flow, Biafrans can die for all they care. Now, if you will permit me, I want to touch again on the issue of our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because I will not do justice if I finish here and I did not talk about my supreme leader, a man who has sacrificed everything, a man who have lost his parents, a man who escaped death on numerous occasions because he wants freedom for his people. He is still the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. All right, now you talk about a fair trial. I don't even think we have gotten to the point of a trial yet, because what happened is illegal. What we should be talking about now is taking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu back to Kenya, where they took him from. Because as I'm talking to you now, in the eyes of the law, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still in Kenya, because extraordinary rendition is a crime against humanity. Extraordinary rendition is a transfer without legal process of a detainee to the custody of a foreign government for purposes of detention and interrogation. The program was intended to protect America. It is not meant for Africa. That program came about during the 9/11. That's when they used this extraordinary rendition to torture prisoners and get them to talk. So why would they do that to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Now, in both instances, interrogation methods are employed that do not conform with federal and international recognized standards. This program is commonly known as extraordinary rendition. The Department of Justice arguments notwithstanding, the extraordinary rendition program is illegal. So if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was abducted illegally, why must he go to court? He cannot go to court because the process is flawed. In order for you to take an accused person to court, starting from his arrest, it has to be legal. Now, if you have broken that protocol, if you have broken international law and treaties and conventions in order to abduct a man, you have lost the jurisdiction to try him. So what we are saying, let's have a trial within trial and discuss about the abduction of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because that's what you have to do. In court, that's what you call chain of evidence. If the way you went about obtaining your evidence is illegal, it will be inadmissible in a court of law. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have no case to answer. First of all, we have to deal with the case of process. The process leading to his abduction is illegal. And for that matter, he should be released unconditionally. And that is what we are saying. Even United Nations agrees with me about extraordinary rendition. They say that it is a crime against humanity and it cannot stand. So Nigeria has broken all international law. Kenyan government has broken all international laws and treaty, and they should face the music, and they should release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu on technicality. So these are my submissions, Dr. Matsanga.
Wow, thank you very much. I think in this one now I bring Kenyan here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mike. You have opened up something on international law, something that I started very many years ago. But thank you for reminding me on the question of rendition. And this one is very, very interesting. So the only man who can solve me this equation is Professor Nyari. Before I come to Dr. Jeff Kalui, Professor Nyari, technically, Namdi Khan is in Kenya. You see how complicated the situation is? Are you hearing me?
I'm getting you. I'm waiting to respond.
You don't, because the way your face, the way you are showing me looks like you.
Yeah, I'm in the morning, Dr. Matsanga.
Yes, I didn't know that bit.
Yeah.
Now I've just learned it. I am shivering because, not shivering, because the international law is very clear. So tell us, Prof.
Dr. Matsanga, I want to invoke Articles 13, 14, 15 of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights. And I've said everyone has got a right to freedom of movement and residence within the border state of each state. Everyone has a right to live any country, including his own, and to return to his country. Article 14 says everyone has a right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. This right may not be invoked in the case of prosecution generally arising from non-political crimes or from contrary to the purposes of the principle of the United Nations. Dr. Matsanga, even if I don't go in and in, this is a violation. Kenya has violated the international law. And my brother, comrade, we need to have all the necessary details so that we work together, Dr. Comrade, and as comrade, we know that an injured to one is injured to all. Africa will never be saved, my brother, until Biafra, Western Sahara, people are able to determine self-determination and how they want to govern themselves. And let me assure you, and I want to say this without fear of contradiction, when people want something, you cannot stop them. It is just a matter of time. They can go, they can kill, but we are focused, Dr. Matsanga. And what we need to do, we need to condemn the government of Kenya. They need not to do that. And what they need to do, Dr. Matsanga, they need to go to Biafra and see what is happening, the kind of brutal, the way people are being persecuted. You cannot allow someone to go and be persecuted. This is not a banana republic, Dr. Matsanga. So this, we need to get details, and what we need to do, we can use advocates. And what we have said technically, if the man was moved from this country to his country to be tried, the law has been violated, the guy will need to be acquitted, and we need to go on international relations and international advocates until to have this anomaly corrected. Kenya on this one has squandered on this one. In fact, if it has happened in the watch of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, it is unfortunate. And I want to believe it is Andras which can do that, because President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Dr. Matsanga, has stood with the people of Western Sahara. I don't see the situation in Western Sahara and the situation in Biafra is not different. People are asking for a referendum, Dr. Matsanga. Is it a crime to ask people to come? They assemble themselves, they go to vote. What is it that they fear? What if the people of Biafra will go and forge that they want to be part of the Nigeria? Give people the opportunity, Dr. Matsanga. That's how we can take the continent forward. My brother, our comrade has raised a fundamental question, Dr. Matsanga. Other citizens from other countries, be it Europe, be it America, or other places, they are given an opportunity to go for a referendum. Why is it that when African people are asking for a referendum, it becomes like this, as if it is a favor? We want the people of the Abasona, we want the people of Biafra, we want the people of Western Sahara, Dr. Matsanga, and other people want to exercise the articles, the statutes of the international law, Dr. Matsanga, be given that opportunity. And we are not going to sit. My brothers, comrades, let me just give you this. In 1922, at around the Central Police of Nairobi, Dr. Matsanga, the whites who were colonial masters, Dr. Matsanga, were arresting our people. Until one woman came and found a police trying to dress this one. She said, men, are there men here? She went full strong and threw that man down, Dr. Matsanga. Time for talking, Dr. Matsanga, is over. We need to take action. I submit.
Oh my God. Today, the gloves seem to be off. Thank you very much, Professor Onyari. I come back to Daniel Wesonga, then come to Dr. Kalui. Daniel Wesonga, your view on the question of international law and international rendition. What does it say? I know of Geneva Convention, 1954 Geneva Convention, that gives any asylum, any refugee the right to exist as a human being under the condition on the state where he has landed. So this is where we are now. Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga David. And of course, now speaking after Professor Jared Onyari, I believe he has really exhausted the field. But I'll have this to add on what he has said, that the people of Biafra deserve to have today being a day where the world is commemorating a day where people have been kidnapped. It brings to our attention that this is a man who was actually allegedly kidnapped from Kenya together with the Nigerian authorities. And the questions we have to ask, was it actually really fair for this to happen to a man who is not maybe a terrorist? This was only a person who was advancing the agenda of his people, people who have been over the years killed and butchered, whose women have been defiled and their property destroyed by the successive regimes in Nigeria, and the latest being the Fulani, the dominated regime of President Buhari. And therefore, I think it is against the international law to abduct a man in such a way like they did to Comrade Nnamdi Kanu and take him to, don't know, a dungeon somewhere in Nigeria. They haven't communicated where he is, but I think it was against the international law. And of course, I believe later on the law will catch up with the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari, who are advancing these atrocities. Just the other day, they had a killer unit in their security teams, which was actually killing young men on the streets of Nigeria. And this actually raised concern amongst the international community. Why has the arrest and abduction of Nnamdi Kanu not raised any concern? Why is the international community not talking about this? Because if we allow these presidents to take root in Nigeria, soon enough we're going to be seeing every legitimate leader who tries to raise their voice against the leadership, the failed leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, being purged in a very serious way. Whereas we expect him to be not actually fighting the people of Biafra and the leadership of the Igbo people, but we expect Muhammadu Buhari to do and work on whatever promises he made to the people of Nigeria. I remember when he came into power, he promised the people of Nigeria to eradicate the problem of Boko Haram, who are actually destabilizing the country from the north within first 100 days. 4 years later, more than 4 years later, we do not have anything close to actually annihilating the Boko Haram menace. In fact, just a week ago, hundreds of school-going children were abducted by the same armed group. And that begs the question, is it that now the government, the Fulani government of President Muhammadu Buhari, is it sympathizing with Boko Haram? Are they working with the northern Muslim groupings, which are actually inflicting pain and atrocities on the people of Nigeria? Why are they focusing more on the Igbo people who have been actually been fighting for their own self-determination, a cause which is actually recognized in the UN Convention. And therefore, I think, Dr. Matsanga, for the government of Nigeria, it is out of priorities, it is out of order, and against the international laws when it does such, it makes such decisions of arresting a man, kidnapping him away from his family, away from his people. It is actually denying him a chance to represent the views that anyone across the globe will actually hold in the behest of his people. And therefore, I think we should all stand up and be able to advocate for the release, unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu. And these calls for the international community condemnation, we need as Africa to condemn such atrocities by the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. This is a failed government. It's a government which is being run like a mafia together with his Fulani herdsmen. We have seen him actually infiltrating the military and making sure that it is a lopsided military in that Northerners are more than any other people who are in Nigeria. And therefore, that tells you that this is a man who is not interested in actually assisting the people of Nigeria to arise from the ravages of economic banditry. But he's a man who is actually interested in consolidating power around himself and his kinsmen. And therefore, this is a dangerous man who should be kicked out of power in the soonest time possible. I submit, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much. All of you have done rounds. Let me now see, as you prepare your parting shots, let me see Dr. Jeff Kalui. Dr. Jeff Kalui. Dr. Jeff Kalui. Well, Dr. Jeff Kalui is online, but it must be on attending to a class. Or let me come to our parting shots. Let me begin with Professor Gerard Onyari. I will end with our guest today, Michael I. Onocha. But let me begin with Professor Onyari. I can see Douglas Kirimi connecting. In the last moment, he can't meet this Nigerian. Oh, Dr. Jeff Kalui, I was going to go away. But let me now give you this chance. Rendition.
Yes.
Technically, my good brother from Nigeria, from Biafra, has just said, technically, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu is still in Kenya. You know more about international law.
Yeah.
You are yourself, you have lived in the United States of America for more than 30 years.
Yes, about 30 years, yeah.
Yes, some of us have lived in the United Kingdom 37 years.
Okay.
And honestly, we have seen quite a lot of laws. It is very interesting. Tell us more about this.
And about this, which is specific this?
Well, about international law and the rendition. The taking of people by picking people from one area to another without the Buhari government actually kidnapped someone.
Yes. So we will definitely, and that first of all, let me just make first the first statement that it is not acceptable. And the government of Buhari cannot allow that to continue because it only fuels the continuous revenge from one group to the other. It is actually a large scale which can happen just from the way gangsters happen. When you do something or cut or rustlers, you get something from the cows, the next 10 days they come and steal them back, or they come and steal yours. That is very similar. When they something called revenge. Revenge usually goes or rolls down to a full-scale civil war. And your statement about Nigeria can easily be lost is because of this kind of thing. because there has to be the rule of the law where someone does something they are not supposed to do, they are supposed to be punished without fear or favor, unless you are supporting one group or you're supporting the one gang or the other. So it is definitely not acceptable. And Nigeria right now, where it is, there needs to be immediate referendum, like we have said. The African countries, and one of the doctors or a good guest of yours has very emotionally said that African governments cannot be allowed to reject referendums, because referendum is a way of reconciliation by itself. So in every other country that includes like that they have refused referendum or they have refused the will of the people, like Central African Republic, and I'm talking of even other countries like the Libya, where we take a good example. Now Libya has like small countries within its country where they have been led to do whatever they want. If people came together and decided this is what we want in terms of referendum, and that is where everybody will go in terms of the will of the people, then all the people will go in one side, whether they agree or disagree. So referendum in Nigeria is first and the most fundamental thing that needs to be considered. And, you know, I am asking, I have not less than 10 or 15 students of mine who have gone back to be things, members of parliament. If they are hearing this, they should take it on, and their professors recommended that a referendum is necessary in Nigeria. Now, one of the big problems, there are other problems apart from just general conflict, which are fueled by climate change. They are fueled by lack of grass and lack of, ownership of land. Land has been a part of Sahel problem. So those things needs to be factored. It's not just a conflict among tribes or among groups. It is a competition for resources. So that means there needs to be an economic approach as well to see how they resolve it. We have always lived with economies that we know it. If you're a herds person, you always become a herds person. There are alternatives to current African economic structures like herds, cows, grasslands. If there's no grass, would you just say you wouldn't do anything else? We need to start tilting to look at the root of the problem. What is causing all this competition of resources? Are there alternatives? So they need to look and build structures that, or mentality or mindset that it doesn't have to be the grasslands. It doesn't have to be just cow herding or tribal conflict. So referendum is very important, but also we need to do civic education about the right things. And especially when it comes to the youth, there is no way Africa, most of the population, maybe 80% is under 18 years old. You cannot, Africa will be run over by the current youth population because you can't stop this kind of population. So it needs to be stopped now. By 2030, Africa will be what we teach the young people right now, because they're gonna totally take over. The CSs or the cabinet secretaries, they will be 19, 20, 21 years old or 25 years old by 2030. That's the population they have, and that's what they got. So it shows the urgent or the sense of fierceness and urgency of now that is needed to resolve the matter of African. And I would like to see the African presidents heap up or pile on Nigeria, because Nigeria, when it goes wrong, a lot of things go wrong in Africa. So referendum, and that should be across the board in Africa as well. So maybe we need to revisit, even if it's not a referendum today for Kenya, maybe, you know, referendum is not about just the elections of Kenya 2022. But if the referendum is right, it is right. It doesn't matter where it is done, how it is done, and when it is done. So the idea, no referendum now or the other day, should be, referendum should be allowed. So let's say it's not now, but then they can also restructure and say referendum, yes, but when? So that's my position in terms of letting the people, the will of the people, rule the day.
Thank you very much. Don't go away, but Douglas Creamy, the man who has fought together with us on our panel day and night to make sure that the referendum Biafrans are given freedom. Douglas,
I have a meeting coming in 5 minutes, so I may have to leave, but then I will join if I finish that.
No, your parting shot.
Yeah, my parting shot is that I thank everybody. My name is Dr. Jeff Kaluyu. I am looking forward to engaging more. And
are you standing for presidency in 2022 in Kenya? Yes or no?
Affirmatively, yes, yes, and yes. So I'm looking forward for a fierce fight. And I feel in the entire field, I am the only candidate who can speak economics. I'm the person who can speak virus, post-economic, post-COVID economics. I have the economics, I have the health, and no one else can be able to speak that language. So I'm the most appropriate candidate for the Republic of Kenya as the president today. So I'm looking forward to the support and aggressive fight on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. To be 2022, at
100%.
At least we are not looking at a thief who has stolen. We are looking at a man who has never stolen anybody's penny. So thank you very much. But don't become like a Buhari when you take over.
No, no way. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, my good friend. You better advertise yourself on this television.
Thank
Douglas
you so much.
Krimi.
I will. Yes.
Douglas Krimi. My friend, the ground is yours now. Douglas.
Thank you, doctor, and thank you for having me today. You may bring me up to speed as we conclude on.
It is the question of Biafra. Sahel region is burning. Nigeria is sinking. Biafra wants its independence. A referendum. Nnamdi Kanu technically still in Kenya. Have you seen the summary of an editor?
Thank you, doctor. And the most important thing for us to realize is that the people of Biafra should be granted a referendum. They should be given an opportunity to be able to secede, an opportunity to be able to have their own republic. A time has come for us to be able to not continue the conversation. The federal government of Nigeria, as you know it, a time has come for the people, the indigenous peoples of Biafra to be given an opportunity, a voice, so that they can be able to determine their own future. Dr. David Matsanga. Remember, the people of the indigenous people of Biafra are not in the corrective system that we call the federal government of Nigeria by choice. They were forced by colonialists and other people who didn't want the indigenous people of Biafra to continue their own independence and their own country. They want to continue taking them for granted and also not listening to them. I think a time has also come for us as a Committee of Nations come together and they demand the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous peoples of Biafra. Again, Dr. David Matsanga, we cannot be able to run a country like a cowshed the way Nigeria is being run today. Fulanians men have been running havoc into Nigeria. School-going children and women are being kidnapped daily. We cannot be able to run a country like that. Extremists are more powerful than governments in Western African countries, especially Nigeria. The Fulanians men are more powerful than Buhari. Buhari can only speak through his media heads, cannot be able to speak about the security issue in his own country. Buhari has refused to continue. Muhammadu Buhari, General Muhammadu Buhari has refused to continue assuring Nigerians of peace because he himself has given up to fate and God to rescue his own country. As a commander-in-chief, we cannot wait for you in 2023 to retire. Please do the honorable thing, resign from government and go away, because at the end of the day, the people of Nigeria are tired. The people in the Sahel region continue suffering threats on their security, threat on their peace, because even Nigeria itself, that is supposed to be a leader in the Sahel region, they continue suffering under the evil hands of Boko Haram, Fulanians men, and this elements have been able to run to run Nigeria ungovernable in terms of the economy, in terms of their social well-being, and in terms of their political landscape. Nigerian issue, Dr. Matsanga, is a thorn in the flesh of the people of Nigeria and West African region or the Sahel region at large, and with the people of Africa. We continue standing with the brothers and sisters in Nigeria, but President Muhammadu Buhari has continued disregarding the very lives of the people that have voted for him twice, and continues disregarding the very essence of the Nigerian constitution and the very essence of the Nigerian flag and soil. Why is Muhammadu Buhari taking Nigerians for granted? A time has come for us to be able to realize, Dr. David Matsanga, that a time has come for us as the people of African descent to be able to speak in one voice.
Or you got cut off. You got cut off.
Speak on the issue in Nigeria, and especially the Sahel region that is
we are still waiting for you.
Thank you, Dr. Mia. My point was, in cognizance of the role that Nigeria continues to play in Community of Nations, we cannot be able to afford to lose Nigeria as we know it. And as the people of Africa, we continue standing with the people of Nigeria and continue standing with the very essence of our unity as brothers and sisters all over the world. We continue speaking for Nigeria, and we shall continue speaking for the peoples, indigenous peoples of Biafra, who would want to secede, who would want to be able to have their own republic, Dr. David Matsanga. I do not understand why many years later, the world does not listen to the cries of the people of indigenous peoples of Biafra, who should be listened to and whose voice should be amplified, even when we do not think that it is convenient for us to do so. We need to be able to stand with the indigenous peoples of Biafra, and we need to be able to tell each other the truth as countries that love Nigeria, as countries that love peace in Africa. We should be able to grant the indigenous people of Biafra a voice to be able to amplify themselves, to be able to speak to the world. The world needs to come to the rescue of the indigenous peoples of Biafra. Dr. David Matsanga, it pains me to realize that only a handful of people, media stations like yourself, who have given space to the indigenous people of Biafra to be able to hire their own issues and grievances. People and also media houses across Africa, Dr. David Matsanga, continue hiding away from the issues that we continue facing from the indigenous people of Biafra. These are people who have continued to suffer under the federal arrangement that is in Nigeria today. We need to be able to restructure, and we need to give them a voice. It also saddens my heart to realize that if a person like Dr. David Matsanga gives an opportunity to Biafrans to be able to speak, people that do not even pay him, they continue insulting and also continue thinking that Dr. David Matsanga owns the whole world. He only owns media stations that have given them a space and a voice. And I would also ask the people of Biafra to respect Dr. David Matsanga and his media houses. He has given you a voice in London. He has given you a voice in Germany. He's given you a voice across the nations of the world, and especially here at Punchline Africa. He has given you a voice to amplify your independence, to amplify a referendum, so that you can be able to determine your own future. You should be able to give Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and Dr. David Matsanga the respect that he deserves. When you continue asking Dr. David Matsanga to intervene on your affairs, the only thing he can do is to give you a voice, to help you and also bring us on board so that we can help you speak for yourselves, so that you can be able to grow and also have an opportunity to be able to be granted your own freedom and your own independence as the people, indigenous peoples of Biafra. There's nothing more Dr. David Matsanga can do. He has invested millions of dollars to help his media stations run and also bring you to speed so that the world can be able to see what is happening in Nigeria. We need to be able to tell the world the truth, that Dr. David Matsanga does not owe you anything else. He has done anything humanly possible. He has spoken, given his voice over the same. You can be able to go back to history, and history is going to be kind to him and his organizations because he has been able to give you a voice. And we continue on the same vein like Dr. David Matsanga, that you, the indigenous people of Biafra, should be granted a referendum. And if it is not a referendum, you secede completely from the federal arrangement of Nigeria that is there today. There should be a restructuring in Nigeria so that the people, indigenous peoples of Biafra, can have their own voice and they can be able to speak in unison and be able to build their own Biafra Republic. Thank you, Dr. David Matsanga, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you very much, Douglas, with those compliments. Thank you very much for saying so. We have done our best and continue to do our best. 6 years ago, I started this matter defending the Biafran people. I have never asked anybody in Biafra to come to my aid or to pay even 1 inch, 1 penny of airtime. I still continue to do so until I keep quiet when God calls me. But I will not surrender to Buhari's machinations and the crude methods of dealing with opposition with a country that is collapsing. I will not. As an African scholar, I will speak my mind out and stand for the truth. It will set me free one day. Professor Nyari, just a comment.
Dr. Matsanga, as I've said that Africa has got work to be done. We can't run away from it. I've quickly gone through what our comrade Onuja was trying to say, Mike. And I found to say that Nnamdi Kanu, his rights have been violated. Kenya is a signatory and has ratified African Charter. Nigeria has done the same. I'm happy that Kanu has advised his lawyers are working on it. So what we need to do is that Dr. Matsanga, we need to team up. We can't allow these African dictators, Dr. Matsanga, to take Africa as if they own Africa. They cannot. And I want to thank you sincerely that you have done Africa great, because Dr. Matsanga, you have given us a voice. We are speaking things as they are. We can't allow the continent of Africa, Dr. Matsanga, when I talk what African leaders have done to African people. Dr. Matsanga, we cannot go to the West with our education, Dr. Matsanga, to be watchmen when the Africa has got all the resources, which is enough for all of us. We are not going to allow Buhari and his cohort, Dr. Matsanga. On this one, we have to follow to the logical conclusion, and this work for in the continent of Africa must be done. I want to thank our fellow panelists. Thank you. Thank our comrade Douglas, Daniel. The continent of Africa was rescued by the young people. So when we are in the safe hands of Dr. Matsanga, comrades, we are not going to waver, neither to look back, but to soldier on. People who changed their countries, who changed their continents, were not the mighty people. They are just individuals. Dr. Matsanga, let us continue having this tone which has started roaring. It will continue gathering the momentum. And I know God is with us. We are going to succeed. We are going to succeed. Africa is rising. It will rise again and we'll make it. The spirit is there, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, Professor Gerard Onyari, a conflict resolution mediator, speaker, inspirational speaker, a man who says it as it is, a man who studied international law, international mechanisms. Thank you very much. Daniel Wesonga, just 1 minute, under 1 minute, your parting shot. Then I come to our guest of tonight.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga David. And of course, our clarion call and our banner still remains that President Muhammadu Buhari should exit power and give the rest of Nigeria, not only the Igbo people, the Biafrans, the freedom to govern their destiny, but the entire Nigeria, because his leadership has failed the people of Nigeria big time. And to the people of Biafra, I say unto them that aluta continua. We have to continue with the struggle, even in the absence of the leader Nnamdi Kanu. They have to keep up the spirit. In the end, I believe salvation shall be able to come through their own struggle. It has been a very, very long struggle, and therefore there's no any point of backing out at this particular time. And to the international community, the African Union, and all the African member states and leaders, it is a time we stood up and raised our voices to ensure that the Nigerian regime releases the Biafran leader Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally, so that he can continue with whatever they are doing. They can always negotiate. We always have a very, very good platform which can be set so that they can be able to talk and be able to solve these kind of stalemate. But by arresting him and kidnapping him, they are only deteriorating the already destroyed relations between the Igbo people and the leadership of President Buhari. I submit.
Thank you very much, Daniel Sean Wesonga. World watches while Biafra, the Biafrans are being killed. The world watches, the AU is watching the slaughter in Enugu, Onitsha, Port Harcourt, Lagos, all the southeastern states. There is bloodshed. My brother Mike Onocha from Dubai, under 2 to 3 minutes, bring us the message we should take to the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. First of all, I want to thank you so much. You are one in a million for giving us this platform to air our view. I see a similarity between you and our leader, Mazen Kanu. Mazen Kanu does not fight for anybody, anyone. That is one thing about, and you and him have the same similarity. Free Matsanga, Biafrans will never forget. We don't forget those who help us when we are in need. All right, now my parting shot. I want to re-emphasize and I want to maintain, I want to reiterate that technically Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is still in Kenya. He is not in Nigeria. And you know what that means. It means that Nigeria has lost jurisdiction to try Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. I believe in the rule of law. As a legal student. If Mazen Nnamdi Kanu has to go to the federal court, Abuja, to be tried, then that is a violation of his fundamental human rights. And we cannot allow that to happen. We must have what you call trial within trial. In order for us to do what? To talk about this extraordinary rendition, to talk about this violation of his right, because extraordinary rendition violates the Constitution and federal law. Its very purpose is to send people for interrogation to places where in the United States, the rule of law does not apply. And Nigeria, the rule of law does not apply. Because now, Nigeria and Britain, they have a treaty, extradition treaty. So what we are saying is, take Mazen Nnamdi Kanu back to Kenya. Let Kenya apologize and then send him back to the United Kingdom. Then Nigeria can now apply for extradition. Then they will go to court in the United Kingdom. If Nigeria make their case and they win, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu will be extradited back to Nigeria to stand whatever trial they want him to. That is called rule of law. This is not a Janjaweed Kangaroo court. We must follow the rule of law. So that is what I am maintaining, and that is what I am still saying, that Mazen Nnamdi Kanu should be taken back, of course, to Kenya, and from Kenya to United Kingdom, because Nigeria does not have jurisdiction. For you to try a case, you must have a jurisdiction. And if you don't have jurisdiction, if you've lost the jurisdiction, then you might as well forget about it. Now, people might hear me talking about Kenya. They might say, why are you mentioning Kenya? Now, in law, there is what we call conditio sine qua non. Now, what is conditio sine qua non? Conditio sine qua non is very simple. It means that without which not, conditio sine qua non, if Kenya did not compromise with Nigeria, this wouldn't have happened. That is why we keep on mentioning Kenya, Kenya. They're more like an accomplice, and they need to work hard in order for them to clean their name. Because I pity the Kenyan people. They don't want this. This is not the government they voted for. So you cannot drag the good name of the Kenyan people into mud by committing such heinous crime against humanity. Now, finally, before I go, you know, during the Civil War, there was economic blockade. There was media blockade on Biafra, and people were slaughtered in millions, and Britain was enjoying. Now, the difference now is this. We have youth of Biafra who will never give up. These people we are fighting with, they're old men, and they will pass away very soon, and the youth will continue, and they will not stop until Biafra is restored. We will not stop until Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is acquitted unconditionally because he is still in Kenya. Thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga, for this great opportunity and privilege. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike Onocha. Always keep a watch. Take our programs further. We are part and parcel of a struggle that we yearn that one day and one day alone, the people of Biafra will get the freedom they yearn for. The people of Biafra will be free, will be set free from the hands of Buhari, the regime that has gone down in history as a butcher regime, the butcher of Abuja. Buhari must be brought to accountability. If Africa is to move forward, why should we allow a nation of 250 million people to sink and sink and sink and sink every day? We see that happening. One of the points that you raised that shook me up to now is you said Nigeria is a kidnapping market is very lucrative in Nigeria. Kidnapping market is a market where people are kidnapping others for money. Today is a day for missing people. People who have missed worldwide. Some people wake up of their houses and they don't come back for years and years and years and forever. And when you say Nigeria is a lucrative place for kidnapping, you have even sent my blood very far. I don't know what we can say here, but it is very terrible. If this is the type of nation with 7 terrorist groups from Jania, Iswa, Isagies, AISGS, or Al-Qaeda Maghreb, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ESN, all this. My God, may someone come up and help Africa. And unfortunately, the African Union is gone. The Commonwealth will hold the Commonwealth Summit in London. Brother, just read my lips. I'll be there. I'm a veteran of Commonwealth. I'm a member, senior member of the Commonwealth Journalists Association. The whole Commonwealth 54 countries. My identity's credentials are with me. I enter any conference on planet Earth as long as it is in Britain. I believe Buhari will come and I will face Buhari in that conference. Let him be prepared to answer my questions. Why he has allowed Nigeria to fall, to sink, to be mutilated, taken, eaten by terrorists. Why? Why he has killed many Biafrans. For every struggle, there is hope. And for every hope, there is always success. If you have hope, you will succeed. Brother Mike, don't give up. Don't lose hope. Success will knock on the door. You can imagine some of us have fought for 37 years, but still the things that we said are the things that the new people who are coming in the struggle, what they are saying, and which they supported themselves. Now they turn around and they say, oh, Matsanga said was right. But here we are, find ourselves at the cul-de-sac, what the French call a cul-de-sac. The world seemed to come to a halt. Africa needs 400 million doses. We are still talking of elections. We need 400 million doses, Mr. Kirimi. But we are still talking of grabbing power in 2022 in Kenya, when we have not even vaccinated more than 2 million people fully. Are we mad? What bewitched Africa? Thank you very much. Chinawa Achebe, in his book, The Things Fall Apart, which was sung I like so much, on page 53, he said, perhaps you have been away for too long. Obiorika was telling Okwonko that perhaps you have been away for too long. The Umofia clan has changed. The white man has brought a bicycle that drinks milk. And guess what followed the sentence, Kirimi? Things have fallen apart. On that note, I end it that way. I know, Daniel, you are smiling behind there, and Kirimi, look at that page. I've never forgotten. You know, I did my O levels in 1974. Can you believe that? I believe none of you here were born here. 1994. Douglas. And the rest. I read that book and I passed English literature with a distinction #2. And it was one of the most interesting books that I wanted to have. Even today in my home in London, I have 2 books, two copies. Somebody snatched one, but I kept that one. I read in 19 because there have been new versions. But Chinawa Achebe said, things have fallen apart. A bicycle drinks milk, white milk. You know what white milk was? Kirimi, do you know what white milk was? White milk is oil. If you mix oil with, if the car bursts the gasket and the water goes into the oil engine, what comes out is white. So when this oil was put on the chain of the bicycle and the water was poured on it, something white came out. And then Obiorika said, oh no, you have been away for too long, my brother Okwonko. Perhaps go slowly. Things have changed in the Umofia clan. Things have really changed in Nigeria. Buhari has turned on eating his own people and he kills them. As we speak now, more are being shot. Tonight, as we speak, the world must turn its attention on these heinous crimes that are being committed across in the Sahara region. Thank you very much, all of you. God bless you. God give you guidance. This station is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa. Ciao. Ciao.